I stood before the iron gates of the Han estate, my fingers trembling as they gripped the envelope containing our final eviction notice. The autumn wind bit through my thin coat, but I barely felt it. Fear had numbed me to everything except the pounding of my heart. My name is Parkley, and I was about to make a choice that would change my life forever. The mansion loomed before me like something from a Gothic novel, all sharp angles and dark windows that seemed to watch my approach. Somewhere inside lived Han Li, the alpha whose name was whispered with equal parts fear and reverence throughout the city. Ruthless businessman. Cold-hearted tyrant. The man who had somehow acquired the debt on our family home, and who now held my sister's life in his hands. My sister, Park Min, lay dying in a hospital bed across the city. Leukemia. The treatments were experimental, expensive, and our only hope. But hope, I'd learned, had a price tag I couldn't afford. I had exhausted every option, sold everything of value, begged at every door. And now, with 3 days until we lost our home and the hospital threatened to discontinue Min's treatment, I had come to the one place I'd sworn I'd never go. The gates opened with a mechanical hum that made me jump. Someone had been watching. Of course they had. I walked up the long driveway, my reflection ghosting across the polished black cars parked in a neat row. I knew what I looked like, delicate features that had always made people underestimate me, pale skin that seemed almost translucent in the fading light, lips that my mother used to say were too red, too full for a man. I was beautiful, and I had learned to hate that beauty because of what people assumed it meant about me. Omega. Weak. Submissive. Available. I was none of those things despite what my biology declared. The massive front door opened before I could knock. A stern-faced woman in a crisp suit looked me up and down with barely concealed disdain. Parkley? She asked, though she clearly already knew. Yes. I'm here to see Han Li. Mr. Han is expecting you. Follow me. The interior of the mansion was as imposing as its exterior, all marble floors and soaring ceilings, art that probably cost more than my family home, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. My footsteps echoed as we walked through corridor after corridor, and I felt myself shrinking with each step. What was I doing here? What did I possibly think I could offer a man like this? But then I thought of Min's pale face, her brave smile as she told me not to worry, that everything would be okay. I thought of our parents' house, the only piece of them we had left, and I straightened my spine. I would do whatever it took. The woman stopped before a set of double doors, knocked once, and pushed them open without waiting for a response. Mr. Parkley, she announced, then left me standing alone in the doorway. The office was massive, dominated by floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city, but I barely noticed the view. My attention was entirely captured by the man behind the desk. Han Li didn't look up immediately. He continued writing something, his pen moving across paper with precise, controlled strokes. The silence stretched, deliberate and intimidating. I knew what he was doing, establishing dominance, making me wait, reminding me of my place. Finally, he set down his pen and raised his eyes to mine. I forgot how to breathe. He was devastating. There was no other word for it. Strong features that looked carved from stone, dark eyes that held no warmth, a mouth set in a line that suggested he rarely smiled. His presence filled the room, that undeniable alpha energy that made my omega instincts want to submit, to please. I crushed those instincts ruthlessly. Parkley, he said, my name sounding different in his deep voice. Sit. It wasn't a request. I sat. You have 3 minutes to tell me why you're here, he continued, leaning back in his chair with the lazy confidence of a predator who knew his prey couldn't escape. Make them count. I had rehearsed this moment 100 times. I had planned what I would say, how I would say it. But now, under his penetrating gaze, every practiced word fled my mind. My sister is dying, I said, the truth spilling out raw and unpolished. And you own the debt on our house. I'm here to ask for mercy. Mercy. He said the word like it was foreign to him. I don't deal in mercy, Parkley. I deal in business. And your family's debt is substantial. I know it is. But I can pay. You can't. He cut me off with brutal efficiency. I've seen your financials. You're a translator making barely enough to cover basic expenses. You have no assets, no collateral, nothing I could possibly want. The words hit like physical blows. He was right, of course. I had nothing. Nothing except. One night, I heard myself say, and I couldn't believe the words were coming from my mouth. Give me more time, forgive the debt, and I'll give you one night. The silence that followed was deafening. Han Li's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Interest maybe. Or disgust. You're offering yourself to me, he said slowly. For sex. Heat flooded my face, shame and anger warring in my chest. For my sister's life. For our home. Yes. He stood and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. He was tall, broad-shouldered, every inch of him radiating power and control. He walked around the desk, each step measured and deliberate, until he stood directly in front of me. "Stand up." I did, my legs shaking. He was close enough that I could smell him, expensive cologne mixed with something darker, more primal. My Omega biology responded despite my best efforts, and I knew he could scent it, could sense my body's betrayal. He reached out, and I forced myself not to flinch as his fingers caught my chin, tilting my face to the light. His thumb brushed across my lower lip and I shivered. "You are beautiful," he murmured, almost to himself. "Exquisite, really. Any alpha would want you." His hand dropped away and he stepped back. "But I'm not any alpha. And one night? That's not enough." My heart plummeted. "Please?" "I have a counteroffer," he interrupted, returning to his desk. He pulled out a folder, opened it, and slid a document across to me. "Read this." I picked up the papers with numb fingers. It was a contract. A breeding contract. "You want?" I couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't make my mouth form the words. "An heir," Hanley said simply. "I need an Omega to carry my child. In exchange, I will pay off your family's debt in full, cover all of your sister's medical expenses, and provide you with a monthly allowance substantial enough to live comfortably. The house will be returned to your name. You want me to have your baby." The words sounded surreal. "Yes. You will live here during the pregnancy. After the birth, you may leave or stay as you choose, but the child remains with me. All terms are outlined in the contract. You have until tomorrow morning to decide." I stared at the papers, at the neat legal language that reduced something so profound to clauses and stipulations. This was insane. Impossible. I couldn't agree to this. "Why me?" I asked, looking up at him. "You could have anyone. Any Omega would jump at this chance." "True," he agreed. "But most Omegas want things I won't give them. Well, romance. A traditional mating. You, Parkley, are desperate enough to accept reality. This is a business transaction, nothing more. I need an heir. You need money. It's simple. Simple. There was nothing simple about this. And if I refuse? Then you leave now with nothing. The debt stands. The eviction proceeds. And your sister." He shrugged, the gesture careless. "Well, I'm sure the hospital will keep her comfortable for however long she has left." The casual cruelty of it stole my breath. He was a monster. Everything people said about him was true. But monsters, it seemed, were my only option. "I need to think," I managed. "Of course. My driver will take you home. Return here tomorrow at 9 a.m. with your decision." He was already looking back at his papers, dismissing me. I clutched the contract to my chest and walked out on legs that barely supported me. The drive home passed in a blur. I clutched the contract, but I couldn't bring myself to read it again. The words were burned into my mind anyway. Bear him an heir. I had come prepared to sell one night. Instead, I was being asked to sell 9 months, and a child. Our house was dark and cold when I arrived. I couldn't afford to heat it properly anymore. I sat at the kitchen table where my family used to gather for meals, where my mother had taught me to cook, where my father had helped me with homework. The ghosts of happier times pressed in around me. My phone rang. The hospital. "Mr. Park? This is Dr. Kim. I wanted to update you on your sister's condition." I listened as she explained in gentle, clinical terms that Min was getting worse. That without the next round of treatment they were looking at weeks, maybe days. That they understood my financial situation, but there was only so much they could do. "Please," I whispered. "Just a little more time. I'm working on it." After I hung up, I sat in the darkness and cried. I cried for my sister, for my parents, for the impossible choice I had to make. I cried for the life I'd imagined I might have someday, simple, happy, free. And then I stopped crying. I wiped my face. And I opened the contract. I read every word, every clause. Hanley wanted complete control. Medical decisions during the pregnancy would be his. The child would bear his name. I would have no legal rights after the birth unless I chose to stay, and even then, my role would be clearly defined and limited. In exchange, everything I needed would be provided. Min would live. Our house would be ours again. And I would be, what, a broodmare? A transaction? A means to an end? But alive. Min would be alive. I thought about confronting Hanley, trying to negotiate better terms. But I had nothing to negotiate with. He held all the cards and he knew it. The night stretched endlessly. I visited Min at the hospital just before dawn, sat by her bedside and watched her sleep. She looked so young, so fragile. She was only 22. She deserved a life. What did I deserve? It didn't matter. That was the truth I had to accept. My wants, my dreams, my future, none of it mattered as much as her life. At 8:30 a.m., I stood before the Han estate gates again. This time I didn't hesitate. I walked to those front doors with my spine straight and my decision made. The same stern woman led me to the office. Hanli was already there, looking as immaculate and intimidating as before. Your decision? He asked without preamble. I placed the contract on his desk. I had signed every page. I accept. Something flickered across his face, surprise maybe or satisfaction. You understand what you're agreeing to? Yes. Say it. I want to hear you say it. I met his eyes steadily. I agree to bear you an heir in exchange for the payment of my family's debts and my sister's medical expenses. And you understand that this is purely a business arrangement. No emotions, no expectations beyond what's in the contract. I understand. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. We'll begin the process immediately. Dr. Yoon will perform a full medical examination this afternoon. If everything checks out, we'll proceed with the conception. Wait. The word burst from me. Now. You want to, immediately? Time is a factor, he said coolly. For both of us. Unless you've changed your mind? I thought of Min. No. I haven't changed my mind. Good. Mrs. Choi will show you to your room. Your belongings will be collected from your house this afternoon. Dr. Yoon will arrive at 2 p.m. And just like that, my life as I knew it ended. My room, if it could be called just a room, was larger than the entire first floor of our family house. It had its own bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people, a walk-in closet already filled with clothes in my size, and windows that overlooked extensive gardens. It was a beautiful prison. Mrs. Choi, the stern woman who seemed to run the household, laid out the rules. I was to eat properly, exercise moderately, take the supplements Dr. Yoon prescribed. I had free reign of the house and grounds during the day, but I was to be available when Mr. Han required my presence. Required my presence. Such delicate phrasing for what she really meant. Dr. Yoon arrived precisely at 2. She was professional and efficient, performing an examination that was thorough and, to my relief, respectful. She took blood, ran tests, asked about my medical history. You're very healthy, she said finally. And your heat cycle is regular? I nodded, heat creeping up my neck. Discussing my biology so clinically felt strange. Your next heat should begin in approximately 2 weeks. That will be the optimal time for conception. In the meantime, you'll start on these supplements. She handed me a bottle. They'll help prepare your body for pregnancy. And until then? I asked. She gave me a look I couldn't quite decipher. Until then, Mr. Park, you settle in. This is your home now. But it wasn't my home. It was Han Lee's home and I was just, what? A guest? An acquisition? A future incubator for his heir? The next 2 weeks passed in a strange limbo. I saw Han Lee rarely. He left early each morning and returned late each night. When we did cross paths, he was polite but distant, treating me with the same cool courtesy he probably showed his business associates. I tried to settle into a routine. I explored the extensive library, translating documents from my laptop to keep my skills sharp and my mind occupied. I walked the gardens. I called Min every day, relief flooding through me each time as her voice grew stronger. The new treatment was working. She was going to live. The price I was paying suddenly felt worth it. But as my heat approached, anxiety twisted tighter in my stomach. I'd been through heats before, of course, but always alone, always able to ride them out in private. The thought of spending my heat with Han Lee, of allowing him that level of intimacy, made me feel vulnerable in a way the contract hadn't. 3 days before my heat was due, Han Lee summoned me to his office. Dr. Yoon confirms you'll go into heat soon, he said without preamble. We need to discuss logistics. Logistics, I repeated, as if we were planning a business meeting, not the creation of a child. I'll clear my schedule. We'll remain in the heat suite on the 3rd floor until your heat passes. Everything you need will be provided. The heat suite, I said flatly. It's designed for comfort and privacy during heat cycles. You'll find it adequate. Adequate. Such a clinical word for something so primal. Is there anything you need me to know? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. About you? About what to expect. For the first time, something almost human flickered across his face. I'm not a cruel man, Park Lee, despite what you may think. I won't hurt you. The heat will make it easier for both of us. That was probably meant to be reassuring. It wasn't. That night, I lay in my large, empty bed and thought about what was coming. I'd entered into this with my eyes open. I'd made my choice. But knowing something intellectually and facing it emotionally were 2 very different things. I was about to be intimate with a man I barely knew. A man who saw me as a transaction. And from that intimacy, a child would come. A child I'd have to give up. Could I do this? Could I really go through with it? But then my phone rang and Min's voice was bright with excitement. The doctors say I can go home next week. Can you believe it? And I knew I would do anything, sacrifice anything, to keep hearing that joy in her voice. Even this. My heat began in the early hours of the morning, 3 days later. I woke to familiar sensations, the fever building beneath my skin, the restless ache in my bones, the emptiness that demanded to be filled. My body knew what it wanted, what it needed, even if my mind recoiled from the reality of how that need would be met. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers and sent the text I'd been dreading. It's starting. The response came within seconds. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I dragged myself to the shower, hoping the cool water would provide some relief. It didn't. If anything, it made everything worse, my sensitized skin hyper-aware of every droplet, every touch. I dried off and pulled on the simple robe that had been left in the bathroom, my body already beginning to produce the slick that would make the next few days possible. This was happening. This was really happening. A knock at the door made me jump. I opened it to find Han Lee, dressed in simple dark pants and a white shirt, his expression unreadable. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Like I'm in heat," I said, unable to keep the edge from my voice. "How do you think I'm feeling?" Something that might have been sympathy crossed his face. "Come. The heat suite is ready." I followed him down the hallway and up a private staircase I'd never noticed before. The heat suite was at the end of a quiet corridor, a set of rooms designed specifically for this purpose. The main room was dominated by a massive bed covered in soft blankets and pillows. Adjacent was a bathroom and a small sitting area with a mini fridge stocked with water and easy foods. "Everything you might need is here," Hanley said, gesturing around. "Water, food, towels, toiletries. If you need anything else, just ask." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly feeling very exposed despite the robe. The heat was building faster now, my body responding to the presence of an alpha. This alpha. I started then stopped. Pride warred with the need to be honest. I've never been with an alpha during heat before. Hanley turned to face me fully, and for the first time since I'd met him, his expression softened slightly. "I know. It's in your medical records." "Oh. Of course it was." He probably knew everything about me. "Park Lee." He waited until I met his eyes. "I meant what I said. I won't hurt you. Your heat will guide us both. Try to trust your instincts." "My instincts want to submit to you completely," I said bitterly. "That's how this works." "Then submit," he said simply. "There's no shame in it. It's biology." Before I could respond, a wave of heat crashed over me, stealing my breath. I staggered and Hanley caught me, his hands firm on my arms. The touch of his skin against mine was electric, and I couldn't suppress the small sound that escaped my throat. "Let me help you," he murmured, and I realized he was guiding me toward the bed. What followed was a blur of sensation and instinct. My heat took over, burning away my reservations and fears, leaving only need. Hanley was patient, careful, taking his time despite my body's demands for immediacy. He touched me like I was something precious, not a transaction, and that confused me almost as much as it aroused me. When he finally claimed me, filling the aching emptiness, I cried out in relief and something deeper, something I didn't have a name for. He held me close, his body covering mine, and whispered things I couldn't quite hear over the rushing in my ears. The heat consumed us both. Time lost meaning. There was only the cycle of need and fulfillment, the press of his body against mine, the sound of our breathing in the quiet room. Hanley was attentive, making sure I drank water, ate when I could, rested between waves of heat. He was gentle. Surprisingly so. "Why are you being so kind?" I asked at one point, during a brief moment of clarity. We were tangled together in the bed, my back to his chest, his arm heavy across my waist. "I told you," he said quietly. "I'm not cruel. But this is just business to you." His arm tightened around me. "Is it?" I didn't know how to answer that. Didn't know what he was asking. The heat lasted 3 days. 3 days of intensity I'd never experienced before, of intimacy I hadn't known was possible. And somewhere in those 3 days something shifted between us. I felt it in the way he touched me, looked at me. Felt it in my own responses to him. When the heat finally broke, I woke to find myself alone in the bed. Panic seized me for a moment before I heard water running in the bathroom. I sat up slowly, my body sore but satisfied in a way I'd never felt before. Hanley emerged from the bathroom wearing a robe, his hair damp. He stopped when he saw I was awake. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his tone carefully neutral. "Sore. Exhausted. But, okay." I pulled the blanket up, suddenly shy. Without the heat driving me, I was acutely aware of everything we'd done, everything I'd allowed him to do. "It's over?" "Yes. Your heat has passed." He moved to the mini fridge and pulled out a bottle of water, bringing it to me. "Drink. You need to rehydrate." I took the water gratefully, draining half the bottle in one go. What happens now? Now we wait. Dr. Yoon will perform a test in a few weeks to confirm pregnancy. Until then, you rest and recover. Right. Back to business. I shouldn't have expected anything different. I gestured vaguely toward the door. I should go back to my room. Not yet. Dr. Yoon wants you to rest here for at least another day. I'll have meals sent up. He paused, something uncertain in his expression. Unless you'd prefer I leave? I should say yes. Should put distance between us immediately, remind us both what this really was. But the words that came out were, you can stay. If you want. He stayed. We didn't talk much that day. There was a strange awkwardness between us, like neither of us knew how to act now that the heat had passed. But it wasn't uncomfortable exactly. More like we were both trying to figure out what we'd become to each other in those 3 days. That evening, as we ate dinner together in the sitting area of the Heat suite, Han Li broke the silence. Tell me about your sister. The question surprised me. Min? What do you want to know? Anything. Everything. She's important to you. So I told him. Told him about how Min was my best friend growing up, how we'd supported each other after our parents died, how she'd encouraged me to pursue my translation work even when money was tight. I told him about her dreams of becoming a teacher, about her terrible sense of humor, about how she always saw the best in people. She sounds remarkable, Han Li said when I finished. She is. She's the best person I know. I looked at him curiously. Do you have any siblings? His expression shuddered. No. I was an only child. Was. My parents are dead. He said it flatly without emotion. They died when I was 25. I'm sorry, I said softly. That must have been hard. He shrugged. It was a long time ago. But I could see it wasn't not really. Could see the pain he kept locked away behind that cold exterior. Is that why you want an heir? I asked. To have family again? He was quiet for a long moment. Perhaps. Or perhaps I'm just practical. I've built an empire. Someone needs to inherit it. I didn't believe that was all it was, but I didn't push. We all had our secrets, our protected spaces. The next day I returned to my room. Life in the mansion resumed its strange routine, except now everything felt different. I caught Han Li watching me sometimes, with an expression I couldn't decipher. And I found myself thinking about him more than I should, remembering the way he'd held me during the heat, the gentleness in his touch. This was dangerous. I was falling into the trap I'd sworn to avoid, catching feelings for a man who'd made it clear this was only business. But my body didn't care about logic. Every time I saw him, my Omega instincts responded, recognizing him as my alpha. The alpha who'd claimed me. 2 weeks later, Dr. Yoon confirmed what I'd already suspected. I was pregnant. The pregnancy was confirmed on a Tuesday morning, and Han Li insisted on being present for the test results. We sat side by side in Dr. Yoon's office, a medical suite within the mansion I hadn't known existed, as she smiled at us with professional warmth. Congratulations, she said. You're approximately 4 weeks pregnant. Everything looks healthy so far. 4 weeks. A month since I'd walked through Han Li's gates and sold my future. A month since I'd signed a contract that would tie me to this man for the rest of my life, regardless of what happened after the birth. When will we know the gender? Han Li asked, his tone businesslike. Around 18 to 20 weeks we can do a scan, Dr. Yoon replied. But for now, let's focus on keeping Parkley healthy. I'll want to see you weekly for the first trimester. After she left, Han Li and I sat in silence. The weight of reality pressed down on both of us. There was a child now, a real, growing life that connected us irrevocably. How are you feeling? He asked finally. Scared, I admitted. This is real now. It was always real. I know, but... I struggled to find the words. Knowing and knowing are different things. He turned to face me more fully. You'll have everything you need. Dr. Yoon is one of the best. You'll be well cared for. I'm not worried about the medical care, I said quietly. Then what? How could I explain? How could I tell him that I was terrified of what this pregnancy meant, not just physically but emotionally? That I was already forming attachments I'd sworn I wouldn't? That every day in this house, every interaction with him, made it harder to remember that this was supposed to be purely transactional? Nothing, I said instead. I'm just adjusting. He studied me with those penetrating eyes, and I had the uncomfortable feeling he saw right through me. But all he said was, let me know if you need anything. Over the following weeks, I settled into a new routine shaped by the pregnancy. Morning sickness hit hard, leaving me nauseous and exhausted. I spent most mornings in bed or in the bathroom, miserable and hating every second of it. Han Li surprised me by checking on me each morning before he left for work. He'd bring me saltine crackers and ginger tea, remedies he'd apparently researched, and sit with me until the worst passed. You don't have to do this, I told him one particularly bad morning after I just finished throwing up for the third time. I'm fine on my own. You're carrying my child, he said simply. Of course I need to do this. The contract doesn't require you to play nursemaid. His jaw tightened. Is that what you think this is? Me fulfilling contractual obligations. Isn't it? He stood abruptly and I thought he'd leave angry. Instead he turned back to me with an expression I'd never seen before, something raw and almost vulnerable. Parkley, I know how this started. I know what I asked of you and I know it wasn't fair. But you're here now in my home carrying my child. I'm not going to treat you like a transaction. Despite what you might think of me, I'm not that cold. Then what are you? I whispered. He didn't answer. Just left, closing the door softly behind him. But things changed after that conversation. Subtle shifts that I might not have noticed if I wasn't hyper-aware of his every move. He started having dinner brought to my room so I could eat at my own pace, foods carefully selected to help with the nausea. He rearranged his schedule to be home earlier in the evenings. He asked about my day, my comfort, how I was feeling. He was courting me. There was no other word for it. And I didn't know how to handle it. You seem distracted, Min said during one of her visits. She was out of the hospital now, staying in our family home that was once again ours, getting stronger every day. She'd been shocked when I told her about the arrangement with Han Li, but she understood. She always understood. I'm pregnant, I reminded her. I'm allowed to be distracted. That's not what I mean. She studied me with knowing eyes. You're falling for him. I'm not. Li, I know you. You're falling for him and it's scaring you. I couldn't deny it. It doesn't matter. This isn't about feelings. Maybe it should be. When I started to protest, she held up a hand. I know what the contract says. I know how this started. But Li, you're going to have this man's baby. You're living in his house. He's clearly interested in you as more than just a broodmare or whatever. Would it be so terrible to let yourself feel something? Yes, I said firmly. Because when this is over, when the baby is born, I'm supposed to leave. And if I let myself care about him, if I let myself imagine a future, it will destroy me when I have to walk away. Min squeezed my hand. Then don't walk away. But it wasn't that simple. Nothing about this situation was simple. That night, as I sat in the library trying to distract myself with work, Han Li found me. You should be resting, he said, but there was no reprimand in his tone. I need to work. I need to feel useful. He sat in the chair across from me. You're useful. You're growing my heir. I'm more than just an incubator, I snapped, then immediately regretted my tone. I'm sorry. The hormones make me irritable. You don't need to apologize for having emotions, Parkley. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Can I ask you something? I suppose. Do you regret this? The agreement. The question caught me off guard. No, I said honestly. My sister is alive because of this agreement. Our home is safe. How could I regret that? But if circumstances were different? If you'd had another choice? I set down my laptop. What are you really asking? He was quiet for a moment, seeming to struggle with something. I'm asking if you hate being here. With me. I don't hate it, I admitted quietly. Sometimes I think I should. Sometimes I think I should hate you for the position you put me in, for the choice you gave me that wasn't really a choice at all. But I don't. Why not? Because you're kind when you don't have to be. Because you sit with me when I'm sick. Because sometimes you look at me like I'm more than just a contract, like I might actually matter. But I couldn't say any of that. So instead I said, because you kept your word. You saved my sister. You're taking care of me. That counts for something. He nodded slowly, but I could see my answer had disappointed him somehow. He stood to leave, and I felt the loss of his presence immediately. Han Li? He turned back. Thank you. For everything you've done. I know I don't say it enough. Something in his expression softened. You don't need to thank me. Just take care of yourself. Both of you. After he left, I sat in the quiet library and put my hand on my still flat stomach. There was a life growing inside me, a child who would connect me to Han Li forever, regardless of what I chose when this was over. Min was right. I was falling for him. Had probably been falling since the heat, maybe even before. And it terrified me because I didn't know if he could ever see me as anything more than the Omega he'd hired to give him an heir. The months that followed brought more changes, both to my body and to my relationship with Han Li. As my pregnancy progressed and my belly began to swell, he became increasingly protective, almost possessive. He insisted on accompanying me to every doctor's appointment. He had the mansion child-proofed, even though the baby wouldn't arrive for months. He commissioned a nursery that looked like something from a fairy tale, All soft colors and carefully chosen furniture. And he touched me more. Nothing inappropriate but small gestures. His hand on the small of my back as we walked, helping me up from chairs as I grew more unwieldy, his palm against my belly when the baby kicked. There, I said one evening, guiding his hand to where the baby was moving. Feel that? His eyes widened, something like wonder crossing his face. That's your son, I said softly. We'd learned the gender the week before. A boy. An heir just as he'd wanted. Our son, he corrected, and my heart stuttered in my chest. Han Lee. I know what the contract says, he interrupted. I know what we agreed. But Park Lee, this child is ours. Both of ours. And he took a breath. I don't want you to leave after he's born. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. What are you saying? I whispered, my hand covering his where it still rested on my belly. Han Lee's dark eyes met mine, and for once the carefully controlled mask he wore slipped completely. I'm saying that this arrangement has become something I never expected. You've become someone I never expected. My heart hammered against my ribs. We agreed this was business. You said. I know what I said. He moved closer, his free hand coming up to cup my face. I know what I promised. Cold. Transactional. No emotions. But Park Lee, I've been lying to both of us. Don't, I said even as I leaned into his touch. Don't say things you don't mean just because I'm pregnant and vulnerable and... I mean every word. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. I've meant it for weeks now. Maybe longer. You walk into a room and the air changes. You smile at something you're reading and I want to know what made you happy. You talk about your sister and I see the depth of your love, your loyalty, your strength. You're not weak, Park Lee. You never were. Tears pricked at my eyes. This is the hormones talking. For both of us. Is it? He leaned in until our foreheads touched. Then why do I think about you constantly? Why do I rearrange my entire schedule just to have dinner with you? Why does the thought of you leaving after our son is born feel like it would tear me apart? Because you're attached to the baby? I'm attached to you, he said fiercely. Yes, I want our son. But Park Lee, I want you too. Not as an obligation. Not as part of a contract. I want you to stay because you want to stay. Because this, whatever this is between us, means something to you too. I pulled back, needing space to think, to breathe. You can't just change the rules now. You can't ask me to. I'm not asking you to decide anything tonight, he said gently. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm telling you that somewhere along the way this stopped being business for me. And I hope, it stopped being business for you too. He was right. God help me, he was right. But admitting it felt like stepping off a cliff. I need time, I said finally. I need to think. Take all the time you need. He pressed a soft kiss to my forehead, and the tenderness of it made my chest ache. I'm not going anywhere. After he left, I sat alone in my room, one hand on my swollen belly, trying to process what had just happened. Han Lee wanted me to stay. Not just to be a mother to his son, but to be, what? His partner? His lover? Something more? I picked up my phone and called the one person who could help me make sense of this. Lee. Min answered on the second ring. Is everything okay? Is the baby? The baby's fine, I assured her. But I need to talk. I told her everything, about how Han Lee had been acting, about what he'd just confessed, about the confusion and fear and hope warring in my chest. So let me get this straight, Min said when I finished. This gorgeous, powerful alpha who initially made a business arrangement with you has fallen for you completely, treats you like you're precious, wants you to stay and build a life with him and your son, and you're, what? Scared. Of course I'm scared. Min, what if this is just pregnancy hormones? What if after the baby comes, he realizes he doesn't actually want me, he just wanted the perfect family picture? What if I let myself believe in this and it all falls apart? What if it doesn't fall apart? Min countered. Lee, I've seen how he looks at you. I visited last week, remember? The way that man watches you is not obligation. It's not transaction. He's completely gone for you. You can't know that. I can and I do. And honestly, you're gone for him too. You light up when he walks into a room. You talk about him constantly. Han Lee says this and Han Lee did that. You're already in love with him, Lee. You're just too scared to admit it. The words hit like a physical blow because they were true. Somewhere between the contract signing and now, between the heat and the morning sickness and the quiet dinners and the gentle touches, I'd fallen completely in love with Han Lee. And it terrified me. What if I'm not enough? I whispered. What if he deserves someone better, someone who chose this life instead of being forced into it? You did choose it, Min said firmly. Maybe the circumstances weren't ideal, but you chose to stay. You chose to see past his cold exterior. You chose to let him in. That's not weakness, Lee. That's courage. And I think it's time you chose one more thing. What's that? Choose to be happy. Choose to believe that maybe, just maybe, this impossible situation led you exactly where you were meant to be. After we hung up, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my hand on my belly where our son moved and kicked. This child, this unexpected life, had brought Han Li and me together. But what kept us together now had nothing to do with contracts or obligations. It was something much more fragile and infinitely more powerful. It was love. The next morning I found Han Li in his office. He looked up when I entered, something hopeful and cautious in his expression. "Parkley, is everything all right? I want to renegotiate the contract," I said. His face fell. "I see. If you want to leave." "No." I crossed the room to stand before his desk. "I want to renegotiate because the current contract doesn't reflect what this has become. What we've become." "What are you saying?" I took a deep breath. "I'm saying that I don't want to leave after the baby is born. I'm saying that this stopped being business for me too. I'm saying..." I met his eyes steadily. "I'm saying that I'm falling for you, Han Li. And it scares me to death, but it's true." He was around the desk in seconds, pulling me into his arms with a gentleness that belied his urgency. "Say it again." "Which part?" "All of it. Every word." "I'm falling for you," I repeated, and saying it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. "I want to stay. Not because of the contract, not because of the baby, but because of you. Because somehow, impossibly, you've become someone I can't imagine living without." He kissed me then, soft and slow and sweet, pouring everything he felt into that single kiss. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. "I never expected you," he murmured. "When I made that offer, I thought I had it all figured out. A simple transaction. A means to an end. But you walked into my life and changed everything." "I didn't do anything." "You did everything. You showed me that my walls were just another kind of prison. That being vulnerable isn't weakness. That I could want something more than just business and power." He pulled back to look at me properly. "I love you, Parkley. I think I have for a while now. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life showing you just how much." The tears I'd been holding back spilled over. "I love you too." We stood there in his office holding each other and I felt something settle in my chest. This was right. This was real. Whatever had brought us together didn't matter anymore. What mattered was what we chose to build from here. "So," Han Li said eventually, a smile playing at his lips, a real smile, warm and unguarded. "How do you want to renegotiate this contract?" I laughed, a sound of pure joy. "How about we throw it away and start over? No contracts, no obligations. Just us, building something together." I liked the sound of that. He kissed me again, deeper this time, and I felt the heat between us ignite, different from the heat-driven passion we'd shared before, but no less intense. Though I should warn you, I'm incredibly possessive. Now that you're mine, I'm not letting you go. I'm yours. I raised an eyebrow, even as pleasure curled through me at the claim. Completely. Utterly. Irrevocably. His hand slid down to rest on my belly. "You and our son both. My family. Possessive and romantic. Interesting combination." "You have no idea," he growled, and the promise in his voice made me shiver. The following weeks brought a shift in the entire household. It was as if everyone could sense the change between Han Li and me. Mrs. Choi actually smiled at me. The staff seemed more relaxed. And Han Li himself was transformed. Still powerful, still commanding, but with a warmth that had been absent before. He was openly affectionate now, touching me constantly, stealing kisses when he thought no one was looking. He talked about the future, our future, with an excitement that made my heart swell. "I want to marry you," he said one evening as we sat together in the library, my feet in his lap as he massaged them. The pregnancy had made me swollen and uncomfortable, but his touch always helped. "You want to marry me?" I repeated, surprised. "Yes. I want you to be my mate properly. I want everyone to know that you're mine and I'm yours." His hand stilled. "Unless you don't want that?" "I want that," I said quickly. I didn't think you were the marrying type." "I wasn't. Before you." He smiled, that open, genuine smile that still took my breath away. "You've changed me, Parkley. Made me want things I never thought I'd want. A mate. A family. A home that's more than just a house." "When?" I asked. "Whenever you want. Tomorrow. Next week. After the baby comes. I don't care about the timing. I just want you to be mine in every way that matters." "How about after the baby?" I suggested. "When I can actually fit into a wedding dress." He laughed, pulling me closer despite my bulk. "You're beautiful right now. You've never been more beautiful." "I'm huge." "You're pregnant with our son. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." His hand splayed across my belly. But if you want to wait, we'll wait. I can be patient. Since when? I teased. Since you. For you, I can be anything. As my due date approached, Hanli became almost unbearably protective. He barely let me out of his sight, insisted on helping me with everything, and practically had a panic attack when I suggested taking a walk in the garden alone. What if you fall? He demanded. What if you go into labor? What if? What if you take a breath and remember that women have been having babies for literally all of human history? I interrupted, amused despite myself. I'm fine, Hanli. We're fine. I know, He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I can't lose you. Either of you. The thought of something going wrong. I took his face in my hands, making him look at me. Nothing is going to go wrong. Dr. Yoon says everything is perfect. The baby is healthy. I'm healthy. You need to trust that. I do trust that. I trust Dr. Yoon. He covered my hands with his. But Park Lee, you and this baby are everything to me. Everything. I've never been afraid before, not really. But the thought of losing you terrifies me. My heart melted. You're not going to lose me. I promise. You can't promise that. Then I promise I'll fight like hell to come back to you. How's that? He kissed me softly. Better. But I still want to be there. For everything. Even the gross parts? Especially the gross parts. We're in this together, remember? And he meant it. When I went into labor 3 weeks later, early morning contractions that started mild and quickly intensified, Hanli was by my side every second. He held my hand through the pain, breathed with me, encouraged me, refused to leave even when I snapped at him in frustration. I hate you for doing this to me, I gasped during a particularly brutal contraction. I know, he said calmly, wiping my forehead with a cool cloth. You can hate me all you want. I'm not going anywhere. I don't actually hate you. I know that too. The labor lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of pain and exhaustion and fear, but also of Han Li's unwavering presence. His strength when I had none left. His belief that I could do this when I wanted to give up. And finally, our son was born. The doctor placed him on my chest, this tiny, perfect being, and I looked down at him through tears. He had Han Li's dark hair, my delicate features, and the most beautiful eyes I'd ever seen. He's perfect, I whispered. Like his father, Han Li said, and it took me a moment to realize he meant me, not himself. Park Lee, you are incredible. You are incredible. He kissed me, soft and reverent, and in that moment, with our son between us, I felt complete in a way I never had before. What should we name him? I asked. We'd discussed names but never decided on one. Now, looking at our son, the answer felt obvious. Park Han-jae, Han Li said. If that's acceptable to you. Park is his surname, carrying on your family line. Han for both of us. And Jae for talent and ability, I finished. It's perfect. The first few weeks with Han-jae were a blur of sleepless nights, endless feedings, and the overwhelming love I felt for this tiny person who'd completely taken over our lives. Han Li was an attentive father, surprisingly natural despite his earlier concerns. He changed diapers without complaint, walked the floors with Han-jae when he wouldn't sleep, and looked at our son with such adoration it made my chest ache. But it was the way he looked at me that truly took my breath away. You should rest, he said one evening, taking Han-jae from my arms. I'll handle the next feeding. You have an early meeting tomorrow. I've rescheduled it. You're more important. He settled Han-jae against his chest, the baby already drowsy. Besides, I like this. The quiet. Just the three of us. I watched them together, my alpha and our son, and felt overwhelmed with emotion. This was my family. Against all odds, despite the impossible beginning, we'd become a family. I love you, I said suddenly. Han Li looked up, his expression soft. I love you too. Both of you. My entire world. As the weeks passed, we settled into a rhythm. My body slowly recovered from the pregnancy and birth, and with that recovery came other changes. I'd been cleared by Dr. Yoon for normal activities, including intimacy, but Han Li seemed almost afraid to touch me beyond chaste kisses. You don't want me anymore, I said one night, unable to keep the hurt from my voice. We were in his room, our room now, as I'd moved my things in weeks ago, getting ready for bed. He turned to me, startled. What? Park Lee, how could you possibly think that? You barely touch me. Not since Han-jae was born. Understanding dawned on his face. I'm trying to be respectful. To give you time to heal. I am healed. Dr. Yoon cleared me 2 weeks ago. I know, but... He crossed to me, his hands gentle on my waist. You went through so much. Your body went through so much. I didn't want to pressure you. You're not pressuring me, I assured him. Han Li, I miss you. I miss being close to you. Something hot flashed in his eyes. Are you sure? Very sure. He kissed me then and it was like coming home. His hands moved over my body with reverence, relearning every curve and line. I'd been worried that the changes from pregnancy would make me less desirable, but the way Hanli touched me, looked at me, worshipped me with his hands and mouth, told me I'd been foolish to worry. "You're so beautiful," he murmured against my skin. "More beautiful every day. I have stretch marks. I love them. Every mark, every change, is evidence of what you went through to bring our son into the world." His lips traced the silvery lines across my belly. How could I see them as anything but beautiful? He undressed me slowly, kissing each new bit of exposed skin. I did the same for him, marveling at the planes of his body, the strength contained in every muscle. When we were both bare, he lifted me easily and carried me to the bed. "Tell me if anything hurts," he said, positioning himself above me. "Tell me if you need me to stop." "I will. But Hanli, I don't want you to be gentle. I need. What do you need?" His voice was rough with desire. "You. All of you. I need to feel claimed by you again." He groaned, his control visibly fraying. "You're going to be the death of me. Then die happy." What followed was intense and overwhelming, nothing like the heat-driven passion of our first time, but something deeper, more meaningful. Hanli took his time, building the pleasure slowly until I was writhing beneath him, begging for release. "Please," I gasped. "Hanli, please. Tell me you're mine," he commanded, his thrusts deep and controlled. "Tell me you'll never leave me." "I'm yours," I promised. "Always yours. I'll never leave. And I'm yours. Every part of me belongs to you." When we finally reached our peak together, I cried out his name and he buried his face in my neck, his own shout muffled against my skin. We collapsed together, sweaty and satisfied, hearts racing. That was... I couldn't find words. "Perfect," Hanli finished. "You're perfect." We lay tangled together until Hanje's cry from the nursery next door reminded us we were parents now. Hanli sighed dramatically but was smiling as he pulled on his robe. "I'll get him. You rest." I watched him go, this powerful alpha who'd become so gentle with our son, and felt my love for him swell even more. The following months brought more changes. Hanli officially announced our engagement to his business associates and friends. The response was mixed. Some were shocked that the ruthless Hanli had found someone, others were skeptical about our unconventional beginning, but most were genuinely happy for us. "They'll accept you," Hanli assured me when I expressed my concerns. "And if they don't, I don't care. You're what matters." Min visited often, delighting in her nephew and teasing me mercilessly about my fairy tale ending. "From contract to true love," she said, bouncing Hanje on her knee. "It's like something from a drama." "It wasn't always fairy tale-like," I reminded her. "No, but it is now. And that's what counts." She was right. Whatever darkness had marked our beginning, we'd found our way to light. Hanli proposed properly one evening, even though we'd already agreed to marry. We were in the garden, Hanje asleep in his stroller, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. "Parkley," he said, dropping to one knee. "What are you doing?" I laughed. "We're already engaged. Humor me. I want to do this right." He pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a stunning ring, a deep blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds. "You came into my life when I least expected it and you changed everything. You made me feel things I thought I'd never feel. You gave me a son, a family, a reason to come home each night. You are my heart, Parkley. Will you marry me? Will you be my mate, my partner, my everything?" Tears streamed down my face. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto my finger, then stood and kissed me deeply. Hanje chose that moment to wake up and cry, making us both laugh. "Perfect timing as always," Hanli said, lifting our son from the stroller. "What do you think, Hanje? Will you let your father marry your other father?" The baby gurgled happily and we took that as approval. We married 3 months later in a private ceremony in the mansion's garden. Min was there, healthy and radiant. A few of Han Li's closest associates attended, along with the household staff who'd become like family. Dr. Yoon came, beaming with pride at her role in bringing us together. I wore a traditional hanbok in deep blue to match my engagement ring, and Han Li wore black. He looked devastating, and the way his eyes darkened when he saw me walk toward him made heat pool in my belly. "You're stunning," he murmured when I reached him. "So are you." The ceremony was simple but meaningful. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, promises of love, loyalty, and partnership. When the officiant pronounced us married, Han Li kissed me with such passion that someone in the crowd whistled. "Get a room," Min called, laughing. "We own the entire mansion," Han Li called back. "Every room is ours." The reception was small but joyful. We danced, ate, celebrated with the people who mattered most. But I couldn't wait for it to be over, to be alone with my husband. My husband. The word sent shivers through me. Finally, as the evening wound down, Hanli pulled me aside. Ready to go? He asked, his voice low and full of promise. God, yes. We said our goodbyes, checked that Hanjae was settled with Min for the night, and practically ran to our bedroom. The moment the door closed, Hanli had me pressed against it, his mouth on mine with desperate hunger. I've been wanting to do this all day, he growled, his hands already working to remove my hanbok. Then why didn't you? Because I wanted our first time as husbands to be in our bed, where I can properly show you how much I love you. He carried me to the bed, laying me down with reverence. The hanbok came off slowly, each layer revealing more skin that he kissed and caressed. When I was finally bare before him, he just looked at me for a long moment. What? I asked, suddenly self-conscious. I'm memorizing this. You hear mine in every way that matters. His hand traced from my throat down to my hip. My husband. My mate. My love. Then claim me, I challenged. Make me yours all over again. His eyes flashed, that dominant alpha energy rising to the surface. You want to be claimed? Yes. Marked? Yes. Completely possessed? Yes, Hanli. Please. He undressed quickly and then he was on me, over me, his weight and heat surrounding me. Unlike earlier times, there was an urgency now, a need to reaffirm our bond, to celebrate our union. He entered me in one smooth thrust and we both groaned at the sensation. You feel incredible, he panted. So perfect. Made for me. Only for you, I agreed, wrapping my legs around his waist. Only ever for you. He set a punishing pace, each thrust deep and claiming. I met him movement for movement, our bodies knowing each other intimately now. The pleasure built rapidly, overwhelming in its intensity. Close, I gasped. So close. Wait for me, he commanded. Come with me. His hand wrapped around me, stroking in time with his thrusts, and the dual sensation pushed me to the edge. I held on, held back until I felt him tense above me. Now, he groaned. Come for me now, Park Lee. We shattered together, pleasure crashing over us in waves. Han Li's teeth found my neck, marking me even though we were already mated, and the possessive claiming sent aftershocks through my body. We collapsed together, breathing hard, hearts racing. That was... I started. Our wedding night, he finished. The first of many nights as husbands. I like the sound of that. We made love twice more that night, each time different but equally intense. Slow and tender. Fast and rough. Each time reaffirming our love, our commitment, our bond. As dawn broke, we lay tangled together, exhausted and satisfied. I love you, Hanli murmured, kissing my temple. I love you too. Thank you. For what? For taking a chance on me. For seeing past my cold exterior. For giving me a family. For loving me even when I didn't think I deserved it. I turned to face him, cupping his cheek. Hanli, you deserve everything. All the love, all the happiness, all the joy. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you that. We're going to have a good life, he said. You, me, Hanjae, and whatever other children we might have. Other children? He grinned. Did you think Hanjae would be an only child? I want a house full of children. All of them ours. The thought made me smile. A house full of children, of love, of laughter. A future I'd never imagined possible when I'd first walked through those iron gates. Then I guess we better practice, I said, pulling him closer. Practice is very important, he agreed, his hands already roaming. Very important indeed. The years that followed our wedding were the happiest of my life. We settled into married life with surprising ease, our household a perfect balance of routine and chaos, especially as Hanjae grew from an infant into a curious, energetic toddler who seemed determined to explore every inch of the mansion. Hanjae no, became my most used phrase as I chased after our son, who had his father's determination and my tendency toward mischief. He's adventurous, Hanli said proudly, watching as our 2-year-old attempted to climb a bookshelf in the library. He's going to give me a heart attack, I countered, swooping in to rescue our child before disaster struck. Hanjae giggled, wrapping his little arms around my neck. Appa. My heart melted as it always did. He called us both Appa, Hanli was Big Appa, and I was just Appa, and the distinction delighted us both. Hanli had been true to his word about wanting more children. We tried for a second baby, and I'd gotten pregnant again when Hanjae was 18 months old. This pregnancy was easier than the first, maybe because I knew what to expect or maybe because I wasn't consumed with fear and uncertainty. How are you feeling? Hanli asked one evening, his hand on my swollen belly. I was 7 months along now and we were expecting another boy. Tired? Huge. Ready for this to be over. He chuckled, kissing my temple. Just 2 more months. Easy for you to say. You're not the one with a tiny human using your bladder as a punching bag. True. But I am the one who gets to take care of you. His hand rubbed soothing circles on my belly. And I love taking care of you. Despite my complaints, this pregnancy had brought us even closer. Hanli was, if possible, even more attentive this time around. He'd learned from the first pregnancy, knew what I needed before I asked, anticipated my moods and cravings. You're getting too good at this, I told him as he presented me with pickles and ice cream, a combination that should have been disgusting but somehow satisfied a craving I didn't know I had. I pay attention, he said simply, settling beside me on the couch. Hanjae was napping, giving us rare quiet time together. I want you to be comfortable. I am comfortable. You make me comfortable. He kissed me softly. Good. That's all I want. These moments of peace were precious. Between Han Li's business obligations and raising Hanjae, we carved out time for each other however we could. Date nights at home after Hanjae went to bed. Stolen kisses in hallways. Quiet conversations in the garden. Our intimacy had evolved too. The desperate passion of our early days had mellowed into something deeper, more connected. We made love less frequently now. Exhaustion and pregnancy made that inevitable, but when we did, it was with a tenderness that spoke of years of partnership rather than months. I can't believe we're doing this again, I said one night as Hanli helped me into bed. At 7 months pregnant, even simple tasks required assistance. Having a baby? Building a family. Being happy. I looked at him seriously. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life. That you're my husband. That we have Hanjae and another baby on the way. Hanli settled beside me, pulling me carefully into his arms. Do you ever regret it? How we started? No, I said honestly. Sometimes I think about that day I came to your office, desperate and terrified. And I wonder what would have happened if you'd turned me away. I never would have. But you could have. You could have demanded your money and let my sister die and taken our house. You had every right to. No, he said firmly. I had every legal right perhaps. But morally? Ethically? I could never have done that. Not to you. You didn't know me then. Didn't I? He shifted to look at me properly. Parkley, from the moment you walked into my office I saw your strength. Your love for your sister. Your willingness to sacrifice everything for family. How could I not want to know more about someone like that? You hit it well. You seemed so cold. I was protecting myself. I'd been hurt before. He stopped, seeming to debate whether to continue. Tell me, I urged gently. I knew bits and pieces of his past, but he rarely spoke about the time before we met. He was quiet for a moment, then began. 5 years ago I was engaged. To an Omega named Kim Ji-woo. I thought I loved him. I thought we were building a life together. But it turned out he was only interested in my money, my status. When I lost a significant business deal and my fortune took a temporary hit, he left. Walked away without a second glance. Han Li. It broke something in me, he continued. Made me cynical. Made me think that love was just another transaction, that people only stayed as long as you had something to offer them. That's why I structured our arrangement the way I did. I thought if I kept it purely business I'd be protected. But I prompted. But you proved me wrong in every way. You didn't want my money for yourself. You wanted to save your sister. You didn't try to manipulate me or play games. You were honest even when that honesty was painful. And slowly you broke through all my defenses. I kissed him softly. I'm glad I did. So am I. Because Parkley, you are the love of my life. The real love, not the illusion I thought I had before. And every day I'm grateful that you walked into my office that day. Even though I offered you a one-night stand? I teased. He laughed. Especially because of that. You were so brave, so desperate to save your family. How could I not admire that? Even if my counteroffer was. He trailed off. Insane. I supplied. Completely outrageous? The plot of a bad drama? I was going to say, unconventional, but yes, all of those too. We lay together in comfortable silence, his hand on my belly where our second son kicked and moved. Have you thought about names? Only asked. I like Park Han-wol, I suggested. Han for both of us again and Wol for leadership and excellence, Hanli finished. It's perfect. Hanjae and Han-wol. Our sons. Our sons. The words never failed to make my heart swell. Han-wol's birth, when it came 2 months later, was easier than Hanjae's. Faster labor, fewer complications, and Han Li's steady presence throughout. When they placed our second son on my chest, Hanjae was allowed to come in and meet his baby brother. Baby, Hanjae said wonderingly, reaching out to touch Han-wol's tiny hand with surprising gentleness. Your baby brother, I confirmed. You're a big brother now. Big. Hanjae agreed proudly. Han Li gathered all 3 of us in his arms carefully, and for a moment, we just existed in that perfect bubble of new family. Our family is complete, Hanli murmured. Is it? I teased. I thought you wanted a house full of children. Well, maybe not complete yet, he conceded with a grin. But perfect. Our family is perfect. The adjustment to 2 children was challenging. Hanjae, while sweet with his brother, also struggled with jealousy. Hanwol demanded constant attention. And Hanli and I were both exhausted, stumbling through days fueled by coffee and love. But we did it together. Every sleepless night, every tantrum, every milestone. We were a team, partners in every sense. Min visited often, doting on her nephews and marveling at how far we'd all come. Remember when you were terrified to even go to his mansion? She said one afternoon, watching Hanli expertly juggle both boys while I rested. I remember, I said. I remember thinking my life was over, I admitted, watching Hanli make silly faces at Hanwol while Hanjae climbed on his back like he was a jungle gym. That I was selling my soul for my sister's life. And instead you found your soulmate, Min said softly. Lee, I've never seen you this happy. Not ever. She was right. Even with the exhaustion, even with the chaos of 2 young children, I was happier than I'd ever imagined possible. That night, after both boys were finally asleep, Hanli found me in our bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror. My body had changed again with the second pregnancy. More stretch marks, softer curves, evidence of the life I'd carried and birthed. What are you thinking about? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. How different I look now. How much has changed? You're beautiful, he said firmly. Every change, every mark, every difference. It's all beautiful because it's you. Because it's evidence of our family, our life together. I leaned back against him. How do you always know exactly what to say? Because I love you. And because it's true. His hand splayed across my stomach. Park Lee, you've given me everything. 2 beautiful sons. A home that's filled with love and laughter. A reason to be better than I was. You were always good, Hanli. You just didn't let anyone see it. You saw it. Even when I tried to hide behind coldness and contracts. He turned me to face him. I know we're exhausted. I know intimacy has taken a backseat to diapers and feeding schedules. But I need you to know that I want you just as much now as I did the first time I saw you. Heat curled through me despite my exhaustion. Yeah. His hands slid up my sides. More even. 'Cause now I know you. Not just your body but your heart. Your strength. Your devotion to our family. How could I not want you constantly? We can't, I said even as my body responded to his touch. The boys are asleep. And we have a baby monitor. And it's been 6 weeks since Hanwol was born, and Dr. Yoon cleared you, and I have been very, very patient. He had been patient. More than patient. And I realized I wanted this too. Wanted to reconnect with my husband in this way, to remember that we were more than just parents. Okay, I breathed. But we have to be quiet. His smile was wicked. I'll be quiet. You're the one who gets loud. I do not. He kissed me, effectively ending my protest. His hands moved over my body with familiar confidence, relearning the changes, finding the places that made me gasp and arch into his touch. We moved to the bedroom, locking the door behind us. Hanli undressed me slowly, kissing every inch of exposed skin, murmuring words of love and desire against my flesh. Still so beautiful, he said, his mouth trailing down my neck. Still so perfect. I'm not. You are. He nipped at my collarbone. Don't argue with your alpha. The dominance in his voice sent a thrill through me. It had been too long since we'd connected like this, too long since I'd felt him claim me. Then take me, I challenged. Remind me who I belong to. His eyes darkened. Who do you belong to, Park Lee? You. Only you. Say it properly. His hand slid between my legs, teasing. Say my name. I belong to you, Han Lee, I gasped as his fingers found exactly the right spot. I'm yours. Always yours. That's right. My husband. My mate. My love. When he finally entered me, we both groaned at the sensation. It had been too long, and the intensity of the connection was overwhelming. Missed this, I panted as he moved inside me. Missed you. I'm right here, he assured me, his pace steady and deep. Always right here. We moved together with the practiced ease of longtime lovers, knowing exactly what the other needed. His hand wrapped around me, stroking in time with his thrusts, building the pleasure until I was trembling beneath him. Close, I warned. So close. Let go, he commanded. I want to feel you. I shattered, biting down on his shoulder to muffle my cry. He followed moments later, my name a whisper against my neck as he marked me once again. We lay tangled together afterward, sweaty and satisfied, listening to the quiet house around us. Worth the wait? Hanli asked, a smile in his voice. Definitely worth the wait. He kissed me softly. I love you. I love you too. Just then Hanwol's cry came through the baby monitor. We both groaned. I'll get him, Hanli offered, already sitting up. You rest. You sure? Positive. Besides, I need to have a conversation with our son about his timing. I laughed, watching him pull on his robe and pad out to the nursery. This was my life now, stolen moments of passion interrupted by crying babies. Late nights and early mornings. Exhaustion and joy in equal measure. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. The years continued to pass in a blur of milestones and memories. Hanjae started school, brilliant and curious like both his fathers. Hanwol learned to walk, then run, keeping us all on our toes. The mansion that had once felt cold and imposing now rang with children's laughter. Hanli proved himself to be an exceptional father. He was firm but fair, affectionate but not indulgent. He made time for the boys despite his business obligations, teaching them about honor and integrity and the importance of family. You're good at this, I told him one evening, watching him help Hanjae with homework while Hanwol played nearby. At what? Being a father. Being a husband. Being happy. He looked up at me with those dark eyes that still made my heart skip. That's because I have everything I need right here. Our sons. Our home. What more could I want? Another baby? I suggested hesitantly. His head snapped up. Are you? Not yet. But I was thinking, maybe it's time? If you want another one? He was across the room in seconds, pulling me into his arms. I always want more with you. More children. More years. More everything. So we tried for a third baby, and this time fate blessed us with something different. A daughter. When Dr. Yoon confirmed the pregnancy and revealed the gender, Han Li's face lit up in a way I'd never seen before. A girl, he breathed. We're having a girl. Are you disappointed? I asked, worried. I know you said you wanted. Disappointed? Partly, I'm ecstatic. A daughter. A little princess to spoil and protect. His hand covered my belly reverently. I can't wait to meet her. The boys were excited too in their own ways. Hanjae, now 5, wanted to know if his sister would be able to play soccer with him. Hanwol, 3 years old and still learning to articulate his thoughts, just kept saying, sister, with boundless enthusiasm. This pregnancy was different from the previous 2. Maybe it was my age, I was 30 now, or maybe it was just the nature of carrying a girl, but I was more tired, more emotional, more dependent on Han Li's support. And he gave it without complaint. He rearranged his entire schedule to be home more. He took over more of the household responsibilities. He held me when I cried for no reason and laughed with me when pregnancy hormones made me giggle at ridiculous things. You're too good to me, I said one night as he massaged my swollen feet. Impossible. I could never be good enough for you. Smooth talker. Only with you. He moved up to massage my calves, my thighs, his touch both soothing and arousing. How are you feeling? Really? Tired? Huge? Beautiful according to you? You are beautiful. Stunning. Absolutely radiant. I snorted. I'm 8 months pregnant and can barely see my feet. And carrying my daughter. Nothing could be more beautiful. His hands slid higher and I felt my body respond despite my exhaustion. Han Li, I warned. I'm not really in the mood for. I know. Just let me take care of you. What followed was gentle and tender, Han Li bringing me pleasure without demanding anything in return. It was intimacy without the intensity, connection without the consumption. That was nice, I murmured afterward, drowsy and content. Anything for you, he said, kissing my temple. Always. Our daughter, Park Han Sol, Han for us, Sol for bright and cheerful, arrived 3 weeks early on a sunny spring morning. Unlike her brothers, she came quickly as if she couldn't wait to join our family. When they placed her in my arms, I fell in love all over again. She had my red lips and Han Li's strong features, and when she opened her eyes for the first time, they were a striking amber color that neither of us had. She's perfect, Han Li breathed, his finger gently stroking her tiny cheek. Our Han Sol. Our bright light. The boys were allowed to visit later that day, and watching them meet their sister for the first time brought tears to my eyes. She's so small, Hanjae said wonderingly. You were small too once, I reminded him. I protect her, Hanwol declared seriously. I'm big brother. We'll both protect her, Hanjae corrected. Right, Big Appa? Right, Hanli confirmed, gathering all of us in carefully. We'll all protect each other. That's what families do. Adjusting to 3 children was chaotic in ways I couldn't have imagined. Han Sol was a fussy baby, demanding attention at all hours. The boys were helpful but also jealous of the time their new sister required. And Han Li and I were running on even less sleep than before. But there were moments of pure magic too. Like when I walked into the nursery to find Han Li holding Han Sol, singing softly to her in Korean, a lullaby his mother had sung to him. Or when Han Jae carefully showed his sister his favorite book, promising to read to her when she was bigger. Or when Han Wol insisted on helping with diaper changes, even though he was clearly disgusted by the whole process. This is harder than I remembered, I admitted to Han Li one exhausting night after we'd finally gotten all 3 children to sleep. But worth it? He asked. I looked at him, this man who'd started as a cold business arrangement and become my everything, and smiled. Always worth it. He pulled me close and we stood there in the quiet hallway holding each other, drawing strength from our bond. We should go to bed, I said eventually. Get some sleep while we can. Or, Han Li suggested, a glint in his eye, we could do something else while we have the chance. You can't be serious. I'm exhausted. So am I. But Parkley, it's been weeks since we've really been together. And I miss my husband. The need in his voice sparked something in me. He was right. Between the pregnancy and now adjusting to 3 children, our intimate life had become almost non-existent. Okay, I agreed. But we really do have to be quiet this time. And quick. Quick I can do. We hurried to our bedroom, closing and locking the door. There was no time for the slow, sensual seduction we both preferred. Instead, it was fast and urgent, reconnecting in the most primal way. Han Li pressed me against the wall, his hand over my mouth to muffle my sounds as he took me hard and fast. It was raw and desperate and exactly what we both needed. Mine? He growled against my neck. Still mine. Always mine. Yours? I agreed breathlessly. Always yours. We finished together, the pleasure intense and cathartic. Afterward, we cleaned up quickly and collapsed into bed, knowing we only had a few hours before Han Sol would wake for her next feeding. I love you, Han Li murmured, pulling me against his chest. I love you too. We fell asleep tangled together, exhausted but happy, our family complete in the rooms around us.